Hey, all my Leo friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your December 2024 monthly horoscope. These horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I'm talking about Leo, I'm talking about Leo rising being the first house and dictating the landscape of the chart. This is also applicable to Leo sun, Leo moon, and if you have 3 or more personal planets in the sign of Leo, this video is applicable for you as well. When I refer to a day and a time, it's based on the Pacific time zone, so please adjust for your location. We're going to see Mars go retrograde here in December, and this is very significant because Mars is going to go back into a growing opposition with Pluto, but this time Pluto is going to be in Aquarius. So we are going to revisit some themes that we felt earlier in the year, around the fall. And then we're going to see a 2.0 version of them. It's going to be a little bit interesting. Neptune will go direct in Pisces. It's going to spend its last few months in Pisces before it moves into Aries in March of 2025. And then later in the year, it will retrograde back into Pisces. But this is going to be a significant energy shift when that happens. We will have Mercury going direct in Sagittarius the middle of the month, which is significant because Mercury will go over the great attractor for the 3rd time when it moves direct. And this is an opportunity to really connect with the laws of attraction in the universe. It is also going to be in an opposition to Jupiter for much of the month. And both planets are in detriment, meaning that they are in the furthest place away from their home. And they are kind of, it's almost like a house exchange for the 2 planets. So they really have to look at things from a completely opposite perspective. And then finally, we have Jupiter squaring Saturn for the 2nd time. This will happen again later in 2025. But here we're going to see Saturn direct, whereas the first time in August of 2024, Saturn was retrograde. And now, and Jupiter was direct. Now we see Saturn direct and Jupiter retrograde. So Leo, let me pull up the chart and let's talk about how this is going to play out for you. All right. So this is the first of the year. I'm sorry, the first of the month. I'm getting ahead of myself. On this day, there is no Leo rising, so I could not put the chart on Leo rising. So again, I'm going to have to tell you where this is happening. But the month starts off, I think, with this growing opposition between Pluto in your 1st house. And I'm sorry, did I say Pluto? I meant Mars in your 1st house and Pluto in your 7th house. Pluto is going to make a transit in your 7th house for the next 20 years, really upending anything that doesn't bring you peace, joy, a sense of your unique expression, a sense of moving your story forward. But Mars is starting to station to go retrograde. It's going to go retrograde on the 6th. So this is a pretty intense conversation that's starting. These are both very powerful planets. And while Mars is in Leo, Mars is fiery. Mars is passionate. Mars is remembering what it wants for itself. So, and Pluto's really digging deep into like, what's your deep belief about that? And what do you really, because Mars moves fast. Okay. And Leo's a fixed sign. So sometimes if things don't happen fast for the Leo energy, it's as if it didn't happen. And I think we can see right now at the very beginning of the month, we see a very strong focal point towards Saturn. We can see all these oppositions. We, at the end of November, experienced a late night new moon in Sagittarius. We can see that. And we see that Jupiter and Mercury are in an opposition, and this is all kind of focused here on Saturn. So Pisces is your 8th house of transformation, of trauma, of Pisces, the subconscious, where you might want to escape and run away. And yet Saturn in your eighth house, Leo, gives you an opportunity to truly live out your creativity. But part of that is because you are so deeply connected to the divinity within yourself, your inner voice, your inner child, the inner creator, the one that can make beautiful music, the one that can express itself through fantasy and yet through relatability, compassion, and empathy. So you being willing to do the hard work of being patient, trusting, nurturing on a level that is not seen with the eyes is going to be required. And that's not easy for Leo. Often it is not. So I don't want to make this frivolous in any way. But at the same time, this is where the greatness of you, the true king of the jungle comes, or queen of the jungle, has an opportunity to emerge. We are going to go now to the 6th. Pretty big day for the month. This is Mars's retrograde. Mars hasn't gone retrograde yet, but let me put this later in the day. Try 6 p.m. Okay. Now, any minute now, Venus is going to be conjunct Pluto. But Mars is stationed at 6 degrees. This is that Virgonian degree. So it's giving Leo an opportunity to really look mentally and start to process as this retrograde starts, where your impatience may be getting in your way, where hidden anger and resentment sit underneath the surface, because this is going to retrograde into your 12th house. And as it retrogrades into your 12th house, it's going to make a strong, strong opposition to Pluto. And that Pluto is, it's interesting to me because Pluto's energy is like unearthing some psychological ball and chain, something that's tethering you, something that you don't even know is there. So I think that it's really powerful to pay attention to that. Technically, Mars will retrograde until the 23rd of February, 2025, and it will go all the way back to 17 degrees of Cancer, which is the Leo degree in your 12th house. So there's really something about your heart that gets to be nurtured. It gets to be nurtured through the self versus being nurtured through others. And I think that's further evidenced by the South Node at this time sitting on pretty much conjunct the supergalactic center, where this is a point where you get to be egoless to how others perceive, or how, you see, Libra's your 3rd house, Leo rising. So as such, this is egoless to your community, egoless to your siblings, egoless to your teammates and your workmates, as you individualize your belief system or what you want for yourself in some way. And this is pivotal. This is a pivotal lesson for us all as we experience this nodal structure. On the 7th, Neptune is going to go direct. And Neptune's interesting because it's a subtle energy, and yet it's a very powerful energy. It is making a sextile to Pluto, and it will continue to make a sextile to Pluto until, I don't know, for almost a decade as they travel together in their new signs. And they'll come out of, but they'll be pretty much close to each other through the retrogrades. And I think this is an important thing to pay attention to, because as Neptune moves through the house of the unconscious, your 8th house, it's going to move into the house of your beliefs and your individual beliefs, and pioneering into a new direction, a new way of thinking. And in doing so, it feels as if there's a bit of a reward offered here. The 1st, 5th, and the 9th houses are called Dharma houses. And for Leo, these are all fire signs. They're all about passion and individuality and exploration. And so as you step into that energy through your heart chakra versus your mind, you'll be very powerful in experiencing something very different. I also think that at this moment in time, this Venus-Pluto conjunction is very powerful. It will last about a week or so, and it's really going to unearth the self-worth, I don't think it's about money. I think it's about being individualistic. I think it's about stepping away from the crowd. And leaders don't stand with the crowd, they stand ahead of the crowd. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way, but rather in a way that, you know, you can't lead people by following the herd. So here you're going to be tasked to follow your heart. Now let's go to the 11th, where we see Venus in an exact opposition to Mars. And this is at that Leo degree, the 5th degree. So here it is, Mars in your first house at that degree of wanting to roar. And I think the retrograde here is a bit of wanting to roar, because I think very much you want to birth something of yourself. And maybe there's been an unconscious tethering you to a smaller version of yourself. And I think that may be evidenced by the Mercury, Jupiter opposition that we see floating around throughout the month. Mercury is just about to move direct, and as it does, it will become closer and closer to the great attractor and to its opposition to Jupiter. And that's kind of an important thing to address, because here we're looking at the house of your homes and your dreams. That's the 11th house of Gemini. And then we have Sagittarius being the 5th house of your creativity and your beliefs about your creativity. So let's go now to the 15th. There's going to be a full moon in Gemini on the 15th. I'll do a separate video on that. But now we see that Mercury has gone direct. And I think that Mercury making an aspect here to Mars kind of feels a little bit warm and fuzzy. I know it's a trine, and Mars feels a little bit like, you know, it's dreading going back into the Cancerian waters of my ancestral emotional body. And yet Mercury seems to be offering a gift. You know, even as I look at the wheel, I see Mars's arrow looking up. I see the arrow of Sagittarius looking up. And I feel like this is an opportunity to shift my beliefs about how the possibilities of my own creativity, my own enjoyment and pleasure, you know, my own sense of self-expression, and bringing bounty to you at that time. Venus will begin a trine, and it will culminate on the 19th with Jupiter. And this is where they're exact. And I think this is really nice because it feels very money oriented to me. Again, we see that Gemini is Leo's 11th house of hopes and dreams. And it's also the World Wide Web, your internet platforms. Aquarius is your 7th house of friendships, but also partnerships. So you could see some expansion if you are brave enough to put yourself out on those platforms and start to nurture those platforms. And who knows, maybe they could even start to bring in some money for you. Jupiter and Venus both rule money and expansion. And while Jupiter is in detriment in Gemini, I think Jupiter is so expansive that the challenge here for Jupiter is not to expand, but to actually contract a little bit, to look at the small details of things, to imagine what the actual everyday human experience is like and the viability of it. You know, Jupiter in this position could easily say, oh my gosh, I'm going to do videos every single day, you know, and then you get up in the morning, you're like, I got to go to work, I got to make money, and then I'll come home and I got to eat dinner, you know. Really this, and that would be Saturn too in the house of Pisces, sustainable creative endeavors, you know, with things you're willing to commit to and endure through emotional pain in order to manifest. So that's pretty powerful. On the 21st, the sun will enter Capricorn, and it'll be that happens every year. So I'm just going to mention that verbally. Let's go to the 24th now, where we see Saturn and Christmas Eve, no less. Saturn and Jupiter, yes, are in their exact square. And they are actually making a square to Mercury, which will become tighter. So what happens here is the opposition between Jupiter and Mercury, that are both in detriment, are making a focal point of your Piscean energy, your transformation. And there is this like push-pull for Leo to think broadly and to really look at your philosophies. And, are you willing to expand? Are you willing to stick your neck out and put your beliefs out into the community? And Mercury in Sagittarius is like, I've got to slow down and I've got to think about how can I do this in the most efficient way to get what I need from the universe. And that is to kick in the great attractor, is to take that time almost every day to declare what you want versus what you've experienced. Because if you keep declaring what you've experienced, especially if it's frustration, that's what you'll continue to experience, because the laws of attraction don't really care. They just take the emotion and then they deliver what is most focused upon. So when we focus on a lack of love, we experience a continued lack of love. When we focus on a lack of money, we continue to lack money. And in the human apparatus, people will tell you to work hard. The hard work for a Leo is to come from your courage of your heart and to trust your own capabilities, your own sense of the boss, the leader, the creator, So it's really very, very powerful. Now let's go to the 25th. This next day is where we really see the tightening of this opposition between Jupiter and Mercury and its focal point over here to Saturn. So this is going to be kind of how the end of the year rolls. So these themes will be running around. We also see Venus in a square to Uranus. So there's the potential of something happening unexpectedly. Taurus happens to be your 10th house of profession, and Venus is money. She's transiting that 7th house. So you could see a potential of a partnership ending, especially a female type of partnership ending unexpectedly, the square, because you don't align. Or you could find yourselves coming into a moment where you, Leo, get an opportunity to assert yourself authentically and trust how it plays out on the other side. And that would be Uranus giving you a gift of liberation in some way. Okay, now let's look real quickly at the end of the month. Because to me, the year ends with a bang, because we see this very, very tight and strong opposition here to Mars and Pluto. There's Mars in your first house, just sitting there wanting to assert passion, but Pluto is demanding you look underneath the surface before you take action. Because as you take action, if you haven't looked underneath the surface of your belief system, what the commitment you're willing to make, you're going to trip yourself up. And that's evidenced by the nodal structure supporting this. It's not a slowdown, it's a review of your emotional belief. And as you review your emotional belief and you say, you know what? I'm willing to go through whatever the hard knocks are here. I'm willing to take the criticism, the trolls, the suppressions of my content, whatever the potential challenges are, a willingness to say yes to them so that you can have the bigger yes. It's part of the game, I guess, is where I'm going with that. So I think this opposition is really, really something else. And something that not to be trifled with, and it will continue on into the new year. And more than likely, it will continue on through, we'll see things in the media and throughout our environments reflecting that same opposition. So I'm going to stop my share now. So overall, for my Leos, I really think, because you are a lot of the focal point of the Mars retrograde, that you get to really look at how you're asserting your Mars energy, because Mars is the hero. Mars is the fireman. Mars is the passionate lover. Mars is many, many great things. But when Mars is not exercised properly, when Mars is ability to take action is thwarted, it comes out in spiky ways, and Pluto's going to reveal that in some way or another. So I think forewarned is forearmed, because I can set intentions. I can start prayer work for my peace of mind, my peace of heart, my understanding, my wisdom. And rather than letting anything go, I want it to grow. All right, that's it for me, Teri Hunter. If you'd like to do a reading with me, my information is below. I offer both intuitive and astrology readings. Give me a little, shoot me an email and I'll send you some information. And I'll be back next month. So have a happy holiday, whatever you celebrate. Enjoy the new year and be flexible. Do your best. We'll see you soon. Bye, Leo.